Hello, this is Billy Joe Saunders, WBO middleweight champion of the world. Subscribe to Sporting Icons to stay in touch with all the top news. God bless you all.
So a few minutes ago, Billy Joe Saunders released a statement, and we'll get straight into it, and then we'll have a little bit more of a talk about it. And this is what Billy Joe Saunders had to say. I would like to address the situation at hand. Let me firstly start by apologising. There is no excuse for my actions. It was a very, very, very bad out-of-taste joke. I'm a God-fearing man, and I do not condone domestic violence under any circumstances. When I created the video in poor taste, I never considered how people might interpret it, and instead was trying to make light out of a very stressful situation we've all found ourselves in, at the heightened emotions of families being confined to each other's company. It did not cross my mind about the actual reality of domestic violence and its sufferers. And second, I realised it could cause any upset. I quickly took the video down, but unfortunately the way social media works, it spread like wildfire. I can't change that. I have and do wholeheartedly apologise. I can only take actions to help people, and will be making a donation from my next fight purse to a British domestic violence charity to help victims and prevent future victims of domestic abuse. I'll also host some self-defence workshops and seminars for survivors and current or potential sufferers of domestic violence. Unfortunately, I can't take the video back, but I can do my bit to help people who suffer or who have suffered and become part of the public voice to prevent domestic violence and change future generations' attitudes. And that's what I'm committed to doing. My sincere apologies, Billy Joe Saunders. Now, in the previous video, this is pretty much what it is that I was saying to people, but it's one of those situations that if you say, it was just a joke, get over it, you get sensitive people saying you're condoning it. If you then say, well, what he done was disgusting, he should be banned, blah, blah, then you're being deemed as a what we call snowflake, okay, overly sensitive. So you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. And I was fully aware when I was making that video, and the comments proved that. But unfortunately, what I have noticed is that a lot of people, and it is a minority really, I should say, that people just want to hate on Billy Joe Saunders. Whatever it is that he does, whatever it is that he says. And he has done some pretty stupid things, let's be honest, and said some pretty stupid things, but people just don't like him. And they kind of forget the fact that he does a lot of good for communities. He does a lot of good for some people. Recently, he was donating loads of these nutrients-based waters to help the NHS staff. He did that out of his own pocket. He voluntarily did that. He was giving old people hand sanitizers where shops and stores have upped the price where they can't afford them. He bought a load of them and was giving them out to old people. A year or two ago, he had this young kiddie who was dying from, was it leukemia, who eventually did die, and spoilt the kid with loads of toys and that. And this was just after one of his fights. So Billy Joe does a lot of good, but people overlook that. And it's shadowed by the stupidity, such as that video. Such as things where he got that junkie woman to slap that innocent guy. His kids driving a car around an empty field. And all these kind of things will be highlighted. But the good things that he does will just be given a snippet. Billy Joe, he does and acts before he thinks properly. For sure he does. And if you're not around domestic violence, you don't know the impact of domestic violence. He was making light of the fact that a lot of people are now quarantined and people will argue. And it's going to happen. But unfortunately, there's a lot of people who get angry and can't keep their own hands to themselves. And these people are sick individuals. I've witnessed a lot of this in my own personal life with my dad toward my mum. My dad, absolute cocksucker. Thankfully, after about 12 years or so, my mum finally got the courage to kick him out and split up from him, thankfully. And I've seen the aftermath of a lot of that. And my mum, even now, many years later, is still not the same person. You know, she's still wary of these kind of things. You know, she'll still flinch if she hears a man's voice raised and things like that. So there are long-term effects of it. And there's plenty of people out there who are now in this situation with this quarantine where at times, and it's not just women escaping men, but it's men escaping some women. It's kids escaping their parents or grandparents or whatever kind of situation that they're in, where school is a way of escaping it for a few hours. Going to work is a way of escaping it for a few hours. If you're at home and your partner is violent and he or she goes out to work, that's your time to be alone and just reflect and escape back to normality if at all you can. But now with the quarantine, you're around these horrible people 24 hours a day. And even though all these things are going on in the world, and yes, the police, the NHS and the hospitals and all these kind of things around the world, of course, are fully booked up and the world is in like a bit of a panic. If you're in this situation, do what you can to get out of it. You know, you shouldn't have to accept any person, not just man, but any person raising your hands to them. If you're a kid and your parents or your guardian is raising their hands to you, just call the police. You know, they will take you and take you to a safe place. All right, so please do that. But one good thing that's come out of this joke, which Billy Joe Saunders, I said to you guys before, it was just a joke. It was an obvious joke, but he didn't think about the fact that domestic violence is very real and very raw for a lot of people. It's like anything. Whereas he may find that kind of thing funny because he hasn't been around domestic violence. Whereas this little kiddie with leukemia, I'm sure if Billy Joe heard somebody making a joke about kids with leukemia, Billy Joe would get offended because he's been around that kind of thing. That's what I'm trying to say to you. So it doesn't matter what side of the fence you sit on, you are damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, as I found out in the previous video. But as I said before, I knew that making that video, that was going to be the reaction. That there are a lot of people in the world we do live in a world where the political correct police are permanently scanning, and there are, unfortunately, a lot of snowflakes. I'm not saying that people who look on domestic violence are snowflakes, but I'm talking in general life. But political correctness is too far. But Billy Joe, it was an obvious joke. He didn't really think that anybody out there would actually take it serious. He didn't think that people out there, or some guys out there, might actually go, you know what, I'm going to try that with my partner, with my wife. Unfortunately, the world that we live in, there are people out there who would do that, who would look at his video and go, oh, okay, then a left hook shot to the kidneys. I'm going to try that next time. Because some people are sick. Some people are cowards in real life, and anybody who raises their hands to their partner or their kids to that kind of extent, you're a coward. You're gutless. You're spineless. You're not a real man. Simple as that, isn't it? Anyway, that is a statement from Billy Joe Saunders. And as I was about to say there, one little bit of light that's come out of it now is that Billy Joe will now be committed to bringing light to domestic violence, something that he would never have considered beforehand, but now he has. Out of his next fight, hopefully against Canelo, he'll be making a lump sum to help towards charities, which of course will set up temporary housing for people of domestic violence or domestic abuse here in Great Britain. So a little bit of light has come out of it, but people will be people. Some people just don't like Billy Joe Saunders. Some people are generally not offended by what it is that he said. It's just the fact that it's Billy Joe Saunders. Again, unfortunate world we live in. People just dislike people just for sake of disliking people. And it's not like Billy Joe Saunders has ever been in trouble for raising his hands to any kind of women and that before. But hey, it is what it is, right? Billy Joe Saunders, he's apologised. If anybody wants to go read it for themselves, because I don't quite know how it looks on screen when I read it out, obviously, because I'll do everything recorded and then add images afterwards. So I'll put a link to it so you can go read it properly for yourself. Come to your own thoughts, your own conclusions, all that kind of thing. Some people will just carry on condemning Billy Joe. And if you are, hopefully it is because you are totally against domestic abuse. And if you are, listen, I'll support you. And anybody who is against domestic abuse, I'm with you. I don't like domestic abuse whatsoever. I've seen the impact of it. I would never have that in my own home, one way or another. Okay, so, and hopefully a lot of you people out there do as well. And of course, with your neighbours or your families, just try and reach out to them, do something about it. Anyway, statement will be in the description box for you guys. I can only presume that it was MTK that wrote it for him, with Billy Joe using his words, because we know he ain't great at spelling, but spelling's pretty good on this statement. Anyway, That's what it is. Drop your thoughts below about it all, click thumbs up, and of course subscribe. Catch you all in the next video.